You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
You guys ready?
Yeah,
ready,
man.
So.
I'm ready, man.
I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
Right, it is time for happy hour. It is the Man Cave Happy Hour.
Yes, sir.
Whiskey, spirits, cigars, the stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matthew Fox.
And we are in our home away from home. It's the Detroit Shipping Company.
Home away from home. That is a true statement.
We spend a lot of time here. Well, we're not in the Podcast Detroit studios. We're off in, I don't know.
I'm actually looking at the studios from where we're at right now.
We're over in Avenue B right now, basically, is where we're at. And the nice little catwalk, because there was a very special event.
Very special.
And it's we're ramping up to St. Patrick's Day. And we're getting our Irish on. Jamie Flanagan, I get my Irish on all the time. But Matt, we got a guest today. We got somebody hanging out with us.
We do have a. I would love to introduce Annie. Annie is an amazing representative from a small company you may have heard of called Bushmills. You ever heard of Bushmills?
Oh, that tiny little group?
Yeah, that tiny little. And she was kind enough to come and do a tasting with us and tasting with the small group of folks here. And we went through a few of the Bushmill programs, products, and did some flavor profiles and really talked towards Bushmills and what we're to expect. And we asked her to join us, and she was cordial enough to say, sure, I would love to.
So, Annie, thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me today. This is wonderful. I think it's a perfect time since we're gearing up right into St. Patty's Day.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but the larger company is called Proximo.
Correct.
And it's a big umbrella. You got a whole lot of stuff going on.
We have a lot. So Proximo Spirits is mostly known. We have a very large tequila portfolio. But Proximo has expanded to where now we have whiskeys, tequilas, rums, vodkas. We have a little bit of everything. Our big heavy hitters would be Jose Cuervo, 1800 tequila, Three Olives vodka, Kraken, of course Bushmills, and we have some other brands that newly have been incorporated that we have acquired, and one of them is Proper 12, which we did talk about a little bit in the tasting, and it's on fire, and Conor McGregor is the face behind it, and it's doing really well, and especially for St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, we have quite a bit of brands at Proximo Spirits, and Bushmills is definitely one of our biggest ones, and at this time of year we're focusing a lot on it, and we have a couple big events coming up, and it should be good.
All right, so we really do. We want to talk about the Bushmills. The Bushmills, the traditional, the first one is generally now called the White Label.
The White Label, yes.
And we actually have in front of us, it's called Red Bush. It's the Red Bush.
It's the Red Bush. We have a green shirt that says Red Bush on it.
That's it. That's what you call ironic. It's like, that's actually not. Maybe it actually is ironic.
Yeah, I feel festive.
But you started the White Label. It wasn't really called White Label.
That was just our original.
It was just it's what you had, and it had a White Label on it. But then you moved to Black Bush was the next step.
Yep.
And there were a few other branches off.
Yes.
And now Red Bush has come into play. So you have Black Bush, Red Bush, and then the original White Label.
Right.
What we're trying today is going to be the Red Bush.
The Red Bush.
That is the path that we are headed down.
Well, as Annie said earlier, the Red Bush is giving you a bit of more sweeter taste than what the White Label would be doing.
Absolutely. You get more of that vanilla, that nuts flavor, that honey towards the end. It's a little bit sweeter, and of course you're getting that because it sits in our bourbon barrel. So you have
before we head down that path too far, let's go to the original and let's go to the distillery. So what is the history? Because Matthew, you had a little conversation earlier.
Yes, yes.
And then at the end of you quizzed us at the end. You said, "What year was it founded?"
And I said,
Matt said,
1608. I was right. 1608.
We had no idea there were prizes and glory on the line.
That was the surprise.
And Matthew won a lovely mirror.
Yeah.
But all right, so tell us the story. 1608. Tell us about Bushmills.
Yeah. So Bushmills is not only Ireland's oldest distillery; it's also the oldest licensed whiskey distillery, having passed down its whiskey making tradition since 1608, as we stated. The old Bushmills distillery only triple distills 100% malted barley in traditional Irish copper pots. It has done so for longer than any other distillery. making Bushmills the original single malt whiskey maker.
Okay.
Now, you guys decided to stick with the barley instead of anything else.
Absolutely. When all other companies were switching because of the price increase, Bushmills stuck to its guns and they continued to make it and to not jeopardize or compromise the product for it to remain the same.
Done.
And that was a big deal.
Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's great.
So.
And so the white label was in existence, and then when did you start branching off with the Black Bush and the other variations?
Correct. It wasn't until a few years ago. Now, before that, we were, as I stated, we were doing the 12-year-old, the 16, and the 21-year-old.
Right.
Those malts came into play first, and then it was your Black Bush, and then it was your Red Bush, and as your Black Bush, that is more of your sherry cask. It's finished, and it has more of that peach spice behind it. But it was first the 16. 21, and then it was the Black, and then the Red Bush.
Okay.
The Red Bush got it about 2 years ago. That came into play.
Oh, so this is a newer.
It's a newer,
venture?
yes.
So how does is there like a whole big R&D thing? How does that? How do you know how the process of how they come up with these new ideas?
I think she's going to find out in June.
Yes, I'm taking a trip down there in June, so hopefully we'll really be able to sit down with the master ambassadors and get all the history and knowledge behind it, and I'm very much looking forward to that. We'll have to do another podcast in June. I can tell you all the fun facts and how that trip went.
Well, I gotta
okay,
tell you,
game on.
I've been on the island 3 times.
Have you?
Yeah, But I was every time I was traveling, I wasn't. The very first time, I really wasn't deep into the whiskeys yet.
Okay.
And then the other 2 times that we had youngsters with us,
Yep.
so it wasn't like, we did the Guinness tour.
Okay.
But we didn't. I was like, I want to do the Jameson's tour, and I want to do this tour and that tour.
Yeah.
But with the kids, we ended up not doing it. It's you're on such crushed time.
Yeah.
So is the Bushmills distillery open for tourism?
It is. It's now open for tourism, and like I said, we're very much all of the managers here are looking forward to go tour and really learn their craft. I think that once you're there, you'll have a different appreciation as to how it's made once you're seeing it hands-on.
Sure.
And
just
to learn the history and just being there. I mean, to say that you got to visit one of the oldest distilleries in the world, how neat is that?
Yeah. Just being on the island is just
I've heard
amazing.
it's absolutely beautiful there.
Yep.
So,
Without a doubt.
you know a little bit about that. I'm hoping to get some warm weather. I mean, I know it's Ireland, but
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been super lucky on my 3 trips. It's been really, really nice on all 3 trips. So.
I've never been, so I'm going to live vicariously through
we'll be
you in June,
pictures
and I still live vicariously through you. So.
It was funny because when we went, and so it was stupid. There were 12 of us.
Okay.
The whole family went, and it was just like ridiculous. 12 people trying to do. Can we have reservations for 12? Just everything took a million hours.
Absolutely.
But, so my sister, she and I had gone, just the 2 of us, and she knew Ireland and whatever. So she's telling my brother, who was coming with us on our next trip for the very first time, she's like, "Oh, it's like a Michigan autumn, You want to have sweatshirts, you want to have a flannel, you want to, maybe 1 pair of shorts." We get there, it's like blazing. It's like in upper 70s and 80s.
You're
the
loving
whole time.
it.
You're buying T-shirts and shorts.
That's it. My brother was like, pitching at her. He's like, "I brought 3 raincoats. What the hell are you doing to me?" And he had to go buy some shorts and T-shirts.
There it is.
Right.
So got them at the pound store. Everything.
What time of year did you visit?
The worst time possible.
Which was?
The first week of July.
Okay.
Second week of July.
Okay.
That's when a lot of the troubles.
Annie is making mental notes.
This is something like, okay, gotta take this, gotta take that.
Because I believe it's July 12th. Is a celebration. And as a Protestant celebration, and the problem is they'll have a parade.
Okay.
And they'll have a little Protestant parade in this little Protestant town. And they'll parade over to this little Protestant town. Well, there's a Catholic town in between the 2.
Yes.
And so the Catholics don't really love the Protestant parade rolling through their town.
Right.
And then the troubles. So.
But it sounds like fun trouble.
Oh yeah.
Well, some whiskey behind it. That makes it fun.
It depends, man.
Yeah.
It can get treacherous, actually.
Yeah, I've heard. I did.
Because the first time I went, and we were going, and my family still have relatives, cousins, and things over there, and so we were going, and they live just in the Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Just north of the border, a little town called Annalong.
Okay.
And so we're driving up, and we get to the border between Ireland and the Northern Ireland, and there's 20-foot tall fence, razor wire, guys with their machine guns, full metal jackets.
Oh my goodness.
It's a checkpoint. 10 years later, my
never would've
sister
guessed.
and I go, and we're driving, and we're like, let's go. We're going to go see our cousins. We're leaving Dublin, we're going up, we're driving. We're like, damn,
Where are your papers at? Do you have them?
When are we going to hit the border?
Yeah.
What the hell? Driving. We got to stop for gas. This is we stop for gas. It's in pounds. We're in the north. There's no border anymore because the troubles had subsided for a while.
Okay.
And things are much better than they were. And things are bubbling up here and there.
Yeah.
It's not bad. But there are some certain hotspots. And again, those holidays kind of bring out the best in people.
Absolutely.
So July 12th, I believe it is. It's watch out. Anyway.
I'll keep that in mind, though. But, I mean,
So-
we're going in June, and hopefully we'll get some good weather, not too rainy, just that 60s and 70s, but I'll make sure that we pay
But
those raincoats.
it's still Ireland at that point.
Yeah.
So now the Bushmills that we buy in the States, am I going to get you in trouble here? Is it all coming from the island?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Fair play.
Yeah.
That's not going to get her in trouble. That's a true statement.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all coming.
No, because bourbon is having a hard time. There's some very famous Kentucky bourbons that they're out of bourbon.
Yeah.
And they are sourcing their bourbons and they're blending it and they're matching their taste.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And they're not they're labeling their bottles differently.
They are.
And they're letting people know they're not really obvious. They're like, we're not made in Kentucky anymore.
Right.
Welcome to Illinois. But with the popularity of bourbons and whiskeys, and you do quite a bit of business in the States.
Absolutely.
I didn't know if someone's distiller, because Guinness is starting to distill or to brew here in the States.
In the
I did
States.
not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they opened a brewery just this past year, and I'm like, well, how do you get
That almost
Irish
takes the commodity out
mountain
of it.
water in when you're brewing in Boston? you
Right,
know? I don't know.
Yeah,
you know?
that makes sense. But no, not with Bushmills.
Okay, so
all that liquid
these are all Irish products.
Absolutely.
Because it says right on the bottle.
Well, it's being around since 1608 as you have. I'm going to keep saying that
1608, so
1608, so I know that I can take that
That's
mirror home. But being around since 1608, you have to stay true to your brand.
Yeah, to your roots
and you've done that in a couple of different ways. Well, sticking with the barley instead of moving to grain.
Absolutely.
Right? And especially with the Red Bush that we're drinking tonight, that's got a different flavor profile than what the white label does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So walk me a little bit through the red label, what we should expect if we were to taste.
So
or when we
what is
taste.
different?
Yeah.
Is it the original Bushmills just finished in
It
bourbon
is
barrels?
correct.
Is that
Yep,
is that
and it
the
has
deal?
that sweeter finish, and this one has a 3 to 5 year age statement. But
Okay.
it seems, and it's
And these are those barrels coming from the Midwest that I was talking about, where all those other people are sourcing
Right.
their
Full
juice.
circle
those American oak barrels. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're bringing it over and you're aging them in those.
Or they're shipping the barrels there.
Oh, fair play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Yep.
So-
Yep.
Import, export.
Yeah,
Yes.
import, export, So we're swapping barrels over there.
Sure,
They're
sure.
sending liquid over here.
Right, right.
But this one, it's been very popular with my bourbon drinkers because it has that sweeter finish that, with how hot bourbons are right now.
Mm-hmm.
This has been doing great. And the ladies are really liking, I would say that out of all the flavor profiles that we have, the ladies love the Red Bush. It's sweeter. I always get that feedback that it's a little bit sweeter than the white label. That's the one that they like to drink on the rocks.
That's one of your favorites, yes?
That one's my favorite, yes.
I would by no means call it sweet, though.
No,
I
I
would
think
not.
it has a sweeter. I
has-
taste
it
that
has sweeter
vanilla.
finish.
Yeah, I wouldn't say sweet. You
Side
are
by side,
correct,
side
but
by side with the Bushmills.
yeah,
White label, the standard, the original. It is sweeter.
It's sweeter.
There are different notes in it, different flavors.
Yep.
But I in no means would call this
Can you
sweet.
Would you agree? Do you taste that vanilla finish
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
end?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's the thing, when I first nosed it, as we did our little tasting earlier, I did get that bourbon, a bit more of a bourbon nose in it for sure.
Absolutely. It's got a lighter nose than what a bourbon might give you, but it still has that bourbon feel to it. It's got a little bit of that bite on the end of it as well on the Red Bush.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting, and then that vanilla sets in
Yeah.
after the fact.
Yeah.
it's that nice after effect on the
Yeah,
vanilla.
and
That's
how it
kind of how I
finishes.
get it.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you guys do anything with the barrels, or are the barrels processed in any way? So they've been used once and then brought over, and then you guys use them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing is with this Red Bush, it's funny, when we first introduced it into the market, a lot of these accounts downtown Detroit, they were a little skeptical. They're like, oh, here comes another Irish whiskey. They're just trying to do a different spin. But we had really good feedback. And one of it is, as you know, all these mules are there's Mexican mules, Irish mules. All
Yes.
these,
We did try a mule tonight.
we did,
Yes.
and I think that it went over really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been putting this in a lot of the cocktail menus downtown Detroit, and people are loving it. You know, you have your variants of your Mexican mule, your Irish mule, your vodka mule, and mules are really hot right now, and hopefully they continue on that trend. And Bushmills has definitely been one of the main heavy hitters for the Irish mules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so I've been sniffing this
Yep.
since we started talking. We're
You've
about
been sniffing. I've been drinking. What's wrong with you, man?
see, I've behaved myself. I've just been sniffing. I haven't dived into it yet.
But,
Well, we had a
we're-
sip earlier.
Jamie's going to tell you. I'm curious to know what you're going to feel about when you take your sip. You had it earlier, but now that you've had some time for some other food and your palate's kind of changed a little bit, where are you at right now? Because you just took a sip.
It definitely has an Irish whiskey in the finish.
Yes.
It's a bit more of the grain.
Uh-huh.
More
of the barley than anything
that
else?
alcoholic grain
Yeah.
taste. But there is a smooth, almost a butter smooth, and that might be the honey-ish. I'm not getting a honey flavor, but it's smooth like that.
So me being a
And
little bit.
I smell the vanilla.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yeah, you
I
can
don't, I
definitely
don't
smell the
absolutely. I don't
vanilla.
absolutely taste it.
See, I tasted it. I'm a big vanilla guy. I love something vanilla or caramel.
yeah.
I like that sweeter taste stuff. This for me, it finishes so well. It really, really does.
Yeah.
I'm ethanol challenged as it is.
Right,
But
right.
the fact is, this has a really good. It's got a really good, and I hate to be a lack for a better term. It's got a good finish.
Yeah.
And it feels great on the tongue.
Yeah.
And the palate just kind of works with you. If you pair it with something else, be careful.
Yeah.
If you're going to take something and go to the next step, you
Yeah.
want to do something a little bit stronger
Yeah.
than what this is.
Yeah.
So that's me
But what I
personally.
really like is that finish, it doesn't have that bite, like how you're stating. It's not that it's sweet, but it has that.
It's got a small
that
bite.
vanilla, that taste towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the white label has a bite at the end. There's
Yeah.
There's much more of a bite at the end.
Yeah.
And I think the bourbon barrels just kind of smooth that out a little
Yeah,
bit.
it does.
And add some different aromas and some different flavors in there.
Yeah.
If you're a bourbon drinker, it's not a bourbon.
It's not a bourbon.
It's not.
It's a whiskey.
It's not a bourbon. It is definitely still an Irish whiskey, no matter how you look at it.
But it
So-
feels like a bourbon at one point. It does feel like a
Right.
bourbon eventually, but it's still whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all.
Yeah.
They're all cousins.
They're all related.
It's like my cousins. They came into Canada and then they came over here.
But the Red Bush is a red-headed step. Never mind.
We're all
It's Red Bush. Come
we're
on.
all cousins. All right. So the Black Bush. So yeah, and normally, I mean, my mainstay on Irish whiskey had been Jameson's for a long time, and they've branched out and doing a stout barrel finish, an IPA barrel finish, and then they have the black barrel. The Black Bush. What is the process on the Black Bush?
So this-
comparatively and
Yes, this one sits in sherry cask. So this one,
Okay.
unfortunately, we weren't able to sample this one today, but
Right.
you get more of that spice behind it. You
Okay.
can definitely taste that right. You get you get it in the nose as the bite. Everything you get, I get a lot of spice with the sherry, and that's
Okay.
what you get with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't taste so much of too much sweet. You get a little bit of, I would say, like a peach, and then it's the spices that you get at the
All
end.
right.
Well, I can eat a peach for hours. So.
our angel friend is all about the sherry casks. So
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
where did you just go? Lordy sakes!
I
alive.
saw it. I heard it. I read it.
He ran with it.
Oh my!
Yeah.
It's a podcast.
That is, yeah, that's it. Hell, my mom doesn't even listen.
Well, my father does. So sorry.
Sorry. All right.
And then the Proper 12. Proper 12 is something that Conor McGregor kind of came out with.
Yes, so the Proper 12, we've had it for a few months now. It's
Yeah.
been on fire. It's doing great. As most people follow the UFC, they love Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
It's just taken off in Detroit. People are
But he had a
constantly
different
asking
name
about it.
for it at first.
All I've known is Proper 12. He might have.
He
Yeah.
tried. He had a different name. He had a label. He had a label made that bottled, but
Yeah.
it infringed on some other copyright crap.
Oh, wow.
What was it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and so And then he
Right.
reverted. Yeah,
To
they
proper
came up-
12
proper
is where he comes from.
Do we know that? Oh,
Yeah,
the
proper
name of-
12 comes from. That's like where the district or where he comes from. That's the
Okay.
proper 12.
Oh, okay.
Fair play.
What they did is that proper 12 is made at Bushmills, and how when he was actually the one to pick this blend, he went
Right.
through 100 different blends and he actually picked it out himself. So I think that's really neat, and he picked out a wonderful, wonderful product. I mean, people are loving it. You're seeing people are talking all over it on social media.
Yeah.
There's commercials that just been playing on ESPN and throughout the games and everything else, and it's the
Right.
number one fastest growing brand on social media.
So yeah, and you said
Yeah.
there was a pretty big demand, so you guys were
Yeah.
trying to get some more into the country, and
Yeah.
what happened?
So a few months ago, we imported some pallets into the JFK airport for it to come to Michigan, and they got stolen.
Oh my God! Oh,
Oops.
Yeah. So it only made the
Irish whiskey coming
Yeah.
to the JFK got
Yep.
pinched.
Yep, and
God, I
then-
wonder which bag handlers grabbed that one.
yeah.
And talk to a Kennedy. They'll
Yeah.
So before you know it, it even made the product that much hotter, and people were really asking for it, and they wanted it ASAP, and people were going
Right.
nuts. But I mean,
So did that do something to the price point at that point in time, potentially?
I
or-
mean, a little bit. As you know, some accounts were selling it for a little bit higher because people
Okay.
were really after it, and especially
Right.
because it was during the fight and whatnot. And
Right.
but no, it's doing great. But the Buffalo Wild Wings throughout the whole country, they have taken in the product, and they're
Oh.
doing a feature with Proper 12 for the whole month.
So if someone
good for
wanted to
guys.
find it, you could probably find it at Buffalo
Yeah,
Wild Wings?
yeah, they are carrying it, and because they're very big into those UFC fights, they have
Right.
brought on the product, and you can definitely find it there.
Oh, fantastic.
I mentioned that I'm a Guinness fan.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
actually a little bit of a Guinness snob,
Okay.
and you gotta pour it right.
Yeah.
There's a proper pint. There's a particular way of pouring a pint.
Yes.
If you follow the Man Cave Happy Hour Twitter,
Okay.
when this man is out drinking his Guinness,
Just pictures of my beer.
you should, he pictures of his beer, but trail of pints,
My
hashtag trail of pints.
My trail of pints, yeah.
But he will only post a picture that is a proper pour.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
So-
would you
Don't
say
get 'em
that
all the
B-Dubs
place.
does that or no?
Out of any restaurant
Mm-hmm.
I ever go to and frequent, Buffalo Wild Wings gets it right
Okay.
more often
Sure.
than anybody else.
I'm impressed.
Anybody else. They bring it to you in a glass. No, seriously, I'm like, Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, you you expect them to just take the shortcut.
Yep.
And do it. I love that they do it, and I love that they got the proper 12 for you guys.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
great.
tell you what, the next time we will all go get a Guinness, and then we'll get us all a shot of Proper 12 right next to it.
I am in on that.
I'm gonna
It's,
set my calendar.
Yep, we'll
that
set the
is-
date.
I really want to learn about your experience in Ireland.
Yes.
When you are back in
Oh,
town.
yeah.
Yeah, I would love to tell you guys all about
We'd
it.
love to
and,
hear about your
you know,
experience over there and just kind of understand,
Yeah.
their process, what you learned.
Yeah.
And then over a Guinness and a red
Yeah.
or black bush.
Absolutely, I'm super excited to
And
go
Proper 12.
and just learn their craft, and we're to be able to see how things are made hands-on. I think it's going to be such a neat experience, and I'm sure that it's going to go beyond my expectations.
Sure.
So I'm super excited. I'm super happy that I was able to share this with you guys today, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys the second week in June.
Oh heck yeah! Thank you for the
Thank
pour.
you so much,
Yeah.
Annie. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.